Thank you for watching ECSO News, where facts matter. I'm Sergeant Andrew Hobbs.
And I'm Amber Southard. We'd like to start tonight's episode by welcoming the newest member of the ECSO family.
So help me God. Congratulations, Chief.
Chief Deputy Chip Simmons. Chief Deputy Simmons was sworn in last week. And it wasn't just Chief Simmons' first day at the ECSO. We'd also like to welcome back our mischievous friend, our elf on the shelf, Leo. He's already trying to take over the new chief's office. Now, if you want to follow Leo on his adventures around the department, make sure to like us on Facebook at Official ECSO. Well, this is the part in the show that we like to bring you our most wanted, and the professional to do so is Deputy Melanie Peterson.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us. So, who did you bring on tonight's show to highlight?
Well, this week's three fugitives that I would like to see picked up or get some information on and where they're located at is one individual. Her name is Jessica Nicole Menschel. She's 30 years of age. Amber, she committed a grand theft against the Girl Scouts.
Against the Girl Scouts?
Yes. She signed out over 2,700 boxes of Girl Scout cookies, totaling $11,136. And she has yet to turn that money in. So
those cookies are good, but that's a lot of money.
Well, either she's diabetic now or, or she has since sold them. But the Girl Scouts, you know, of course, everyone loves Girl Scout cookies. So we definitely want to find out where she's at, get her picked up, and hold her responsible for that. Because to me, that's just like committing a crime against a child. Absolutely,
and you bring up a good point. She could have already sold them. So if you recognize her, maybe she came to your door trying to sell these cookies, please give us a call, 433-STOP. And we'd love to pick her up. That's crazy.
Absolutely. Our next one, of course, is Christina Fields. Christina is also wanted for cruelty towards a child without causing great bodily harm. Hers was more child abuse. She has no bond, but it doesn't mean that we don't want her picked up as well. We definitely want her picked up. And our third and final is Lawrence Carrillo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Lawrence, if I have mispronounced your name, please call me.
Let her know.
Or come up to the sheriff's office and correct me. Yeah. And tell me how to pronounce your name. Lawrence is wanted for 4 worthless checks totaling $366.93. He also has a failure to appear for felony criminal mischief with a no bond. And he also has another failure to appear for attaching a tag not assigned to a vehicle. And that bond, Amber, is $2,000.
Well, we have several different ways that people can get in touch with you.
Yes.
I know we say 433-STOP all the time. Of course, call that if you can. But what are some other ways people can contact Crime Stoppers?
Well, I always encourage everybody that don't want to utilize the 24-hour-a-day call center to text their tip to us at 274-637 or crimes. I can communicate with you. It is 100% anonymous, but it's a useful tool as well. A lot of people text or prefer to text. Also, they can go directly to the Gulf Coast Crime Stoppers website at www.gulfcoastcrimestoppers.org. And in the right-hand corner of that page, all they have to do is click on the Tip Submit button. And then those of us or those of them that have iOS or iPhone devices, they can go into their app store and upload the Tip Submit app. And it works the same way. They'll be given a tip number, and all they have to do is call me on Mondays.
Wonderful. So again, if you have any information on the people that were highlighted in tonight's episode, please call 433-STOP, or you can use any of the other tools that Deputy Peterson told us about on the show.
The ECSO needs your help identifying the black male in this video and the 4-door gray or silver car. On November 18th, a black male wearing a white t-shirt, red sleeves, burglarized a residence in the Pleasant Valley Drive area. We are looking for any information about this man or any of the other people that were inside this vehicle. If you have any information on the driver or passengers, we ask you to contact ECSO at 436-9620 or Crime Stoppers 433-STOP. We need your help locating the 3 missing juveniles in this week's Missing Persons segment. Brooke Rasmussen is a 17-year-old white female who was reported missing on October 14th. She was last seen that morning after being dropped off at George Stone for school. She is a habitual runaway. And 16-year-old Stormy Lynn Brown has been missing since November 4th. This is the second time she's been reported as a missing juvenile with the ECSO. If you have any information, please contact Escambia County Sheriff's Office at 436-9620 or Crime Stoppers at 433-STOP.
And a few new future chefs will now have the opportunity to attend culinary school. Sheriff David Morgan presented the Pensacola State College Foundation with a $10,000 check.
And so what we try to do is take seizure money from drug operations, reinvest it back into Escambia County. And in this case, it's for the culinary arts. So we get those that are underprivileged that quite possibly could not have attended college or to have learned, the culinary arts, just an outstanding trade.
The funds will go to the Molly McGuire's Foundation for Culinary Arts to help underprivileged students to receive an education learning culinary skills. The Sheriff's Office donated to Pensacola State College Foundation using LET funds, which is money seized from drug arrest. So we've had a lot of questions about our Operation Clean Sweeps, our neighborhood watch programs, and how you can sign up, how you can get involved. So we decided to bring our expert here at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office onto the show. This is David Craig. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So neighborhood watch, tell me when you first started a few years ago, how many we had versus how many we have today?
Well, let's see. When I started in January 2009, there were 11 neighborhood watches, and we have about 151 today. But we're going to start another one on this very day, so that'll give us 152.
Oh, wow. So how did you expand that program? I know you kind of dove in, you kind of made that your pet, and now there's so many.
It's one of my pets.
Yes.
I have a bevy of pets.
You do.
But actually, it's part of it is the sheriff is such a proponent of crime prevention programs. He's enabled our training, and the public is really the biggest part of this. In this, I have to give them a lot of credit. They wanted this program to succeed. So simply by getting the word out that we had it, giving them an opportunity, it's helped expand it a lot. But we also have a Neighborhood Watch Academy, which was actually created by Commander Dale Tharp. And he came up with the idea. I created the curriculum that meets every other month, and we've had a number of those for several years now, and usually there's 60 to 80 people attending each one. So a couple of thousand people have gone through the training program, and I believe we have one of the only neighborhood watch academies in the country. So as far as the support that the Escambia County Sheriff's Office gives to the neighborhood watch program, I'd say that we're in the top 1% nationwide, and that's all because of the sheriff wanting us to have a big transparent face out there with crime prevention and letting people know that we've got it and encouraging them to take part in it.
Absolutely. And people that aren't involved in neighborhood watches, they're probably thinking what they've seen on TV or anything like that, where you're walking around your neighborhood with a flashlight and you're looking at things. It's not quite that.
Right, or the amber lights and the placards.
Yeah.
And neighborhood watch has evolved beyond that. That used to be the case, and now it's much more of a stealth affair. Patrol. People wonder about neighborhood watch patrols. Well, but the concept of patrol these days is if you're conscious, you're on patrol. So rather than just have a couple of people or maybe a person every once in a while, a few hours day part out of every day, being on patrol, paying attention, really you get the whole neighborhood paying attention all the time. It's situational awareness. It's just the concept that there's never really a bad time to be aware of your surroundings. So conversely, if you're aware of what's going on around you at all times, then you're much more likely to observe unusual, suspicious, or criminal things that are occurring. And then neighborhood watch really goes a long way to changing people's psychology from not wanting to get involved to being willing to make that call. Really, what I think it boils down to is that they learn and they come to understand that if they don't call, then essentially they're the next victim.
Right.
Even if they're just observing something else in their neighborhood, because by not calling, they're perpetuating a soft target environment, and perpetrators love soft targets.
Yeah, so it's just basically everybody in your neighborhood paying attention to what's going on, reporting it to each other, maybe meeting once a month to discuss what they've
Meetings
seen.
are good to share intelligence about what's going on in the community, but it also helps embolden them and lets them know that there's other people in the fight against crime with them. But it's really much less of an exposure to possible danger than it used to be. You referred recently to, in the conversation, to wandering around the neighborhood with a flashlight, or I mentioned the amber lights and the placards on the cars. Well, that really just kind of made you a target, and the feds actually realized that a couple decades ago, and they started encouraging neighborhood watch groups to become more stealthy in their approach. So really, what we teach is how to avoid injury while you're involved in the crime prevention activities. And we've, knock on wood, we've never had a injury in a neighborhood watch program since its inception in Escambia County.
You know, something that I've noticed, we're kind of getting along in the times and everything, and people have started Facebook pages, Neighborhood Watch Facebook pages, which we appreciate and enjoy that they're doing that and getting involved and getting into their communities. But sometimes what we do notice is people are on there and they'll report a crime to the Facebook page, but they forget to call the ECSO or PPD or whoever their local law enforcement agency is to report that crime. So then nothing gets done about it because we don't know about it. So as we encourage these Facebook pages, we also want people to be aware and make sure we get that information. That's something you probably go over in the academy.
All the time.
Yeah.
And when we first meet with the groups, inform them during the academy, and then we're often mentoring people when they'll call crime prevention. They'll call and say, well, I saw something last week and I didn't know what to do, but I thought I'd call you. And I said, well, maybe it would have been a good idea, or possibly in the future you should call dispatch, and I'll give them the number and I'll give them the discussion again. But essentially, Neighborhood Watch becomes the eyes and ears of the police. And if the police are going to interdict anything in real time, they have to know about it. So, we strongly encourage people to call when they see something, not in the future.
So if somebody's sitting at home right now and they're kind of interested and they want to start a neighborhood watch in their community, would you suggest the academy be the first place they probably start? Really,
I'd say they skip that concept for the moment and they just hit the go button. And the way to do that is give me a call, 436-9281, 436-9281, or you can sign up online and indicate that you'd like to start a neighborhood watch. And that's under the crime prevention drop-down list of the EscambiaESO.com website. It says neighborhood watch. And all we'll ask you to do is find a time and place that you can meet with your neighbors, and that I can come out and talk to you. And I'll give the person who's interested some flyers that they can pass around the neighborhood, and we'll see who shows up at that meeting. It's really the best way to do it. Often when people start talking to neighbors about it first, or putting it off to, well, I'll go to the academy in a couple of months, because it can be 2 months till the next academy, because they're every other month. Somehow it gets lost, the idea, or misplaced, or gets off track. Certainly talking to neighbors often is problematic, because many people will come up with objections and questions, and then the person who's interested in starting a neighborhood watch realizes, well, I don't have the answers to those questions or objections. So we just ask them, find a time and place when we can meet with you and your neighbors. We'll give you some flyers. When you're passing them out, if people ask you questions, just tell them, well, that's why we have the person coming from the sheriff's office. They'll be able to answer all the questions. And when we start neighborhood watches like that, without all the committee meetings or waiting to go to the academy, the vast majority of them get, I think over the last 120 of them have started in the past 120 presentations. So they get started that way very efficiently, and usually they stay in line.
That's wonderful. And then I think another thing people don't understand is our Operation Clean Sweep. People are starting to recognize what we do with that, and that's basically a program where you go out and help the community. It's a volunteer program. People can volunteer through it. But the way you sign up with it is neighborhood watches.
Right.
So it's not us picking it, it's the neighborhood watches coming in, they sign up. Can you talk about Operation Clean Sweep? I know you're really involved with that program as well.
Sure, that's a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I had a request today, we want a clean sweep in our neighborhood, and it was from a neighborhood watch. And those are actually booked into early 2018 right now. So to give credit, again, this was a program that was started by the sheriff, and it was patterned on something done in Los Angeles that's somewhat similar. But we involve a lot of sister county agencies. I guess brother and sister would be fair. And you have to watch out about anything you say these days. And let me give you an example. Probation and parole,
ECUA.
Pardon?
ECUA.
ECUA, environmental enforcement, but also a lot of folks from here, roads and bridges. The U.S. Navy comes out with some volunteers. But from our agency, we have our predators and offenders folks come out, and we have deputies that will come out to work warrants in the area. Our traffic unit is involved. Our reserve unit comes out. The mounted unit comes out, the horses, and they escort the Navy volunteers around. So essentially it is a neighborhood cleanup where people can put out trash for a free pickup at the right-of-way. To be picked up, they have to have it out no later than 8 o'clock in the morning. And between 8 and noon, we'll go around and we'll pick up all their trash. And to some extent, there's some bush hogging done, and large items are removed. One area we got 7 boats from.
Wow.
But there's also a driver's license checkpoint. And warrants are served. Probationers and parolees are checked to make sure they're at the addresses they're assigned to, and as well as the sexual predators and offenders are checked. So when it's all done, at the end of the morning, it only takes a morning, many tons of trash are picked up, and usually several warrants are served. There might be 20 citations or so given out, and then as environmental enforcement usually just gives out notices of violation, which gives people an opportunity to correct or mitigate whatever problems they have, grass too tall, inoperable vehicle in the yard, something like that. They will write citations, though, for things like burning copper, and you can get hit with a $500 ticket for that. But when all is said and done, the neighborhood looks a lot nicer. And some people have gone to jail. They've had an opportunity to work out their obligations to the state or their karma.
Yeah, that's
right.
it. Well, thank you so much
Sure.
for joining us and talking about Neighborhood Watch and Operation Clean Sweep. Again, if people want to get involved with either program, what should they do?
They could call me. They could call David Craig, 436-9281, or they can go to the website, escambiaso.com. And when you start hunting around there, you'll find all kinds of interesting things.
Yes, thank you so much again. And please make sure to stick around for Ask the Sheriff.
I'm Escambia County Sheriff David Morgan, and thank you for watching Ask the Sheriff. This is your chance to ask me any questions you want answered about the ECSO. Our team hits the streets again, and here are some of the questions you asked.
Wondering, body camera. Are they getting them, wearing them? What's the policy?
We will be getting body cameras at some point in Maryland. Right now, we're taking a very measured approach to body cameras. If you're following this throughout the United States, there are some agencies who made the rush to body cameras who are now backing out, some of the agencies in California. This was, I think, more of a symbolic move forward and a knee-jerk reaction to, again, it was symbolic in nature because we wanted to show our communities throughout the United States that we're doing something to stop what was portrayed as the shooting of young, unarmed black men, which, again, that is not true. I encourage any citizen to do their research before they get on this symbolic bandwagon that we have police out here indiscriminately shooting young black people. That is just not true. So let me run through some data for you real quick. We make approximately 1 million arrests a year in the United States. That's from state, local, and federal agencies. That's all law enforcement combined. Out of those million arrests, 1.3 of those million arrests, percentage, are the ones that result in any other action above putting handcuffs on a suspect, meaning that we had to employ an impact weapon, which is an ASP, or we had to use pepper spray, which, to subdue someone, or a taser, or of course, which is the ultimate, which is the use of our firearm. 1.3. So that means that 98% of the time, basically, actually 98.7% of the time, our officers never go beyond putting handcuffs on a suspect. But what do you see on the news every night? Again, a police shooting involving. That is almost statistically immeasurable. Now, where the rub comes in is this: it's statistically unmeasurable if it's not you. And so therefore it gets the press. But what we're saying is that we have a law enforcement agency, as with all the other agencies in the United States, that are bringing home an A on our report card, but my mom and dad are telling me that it has to be an A+. Please understand that we'll never do 100% in law enforcement because we are humans and we're dealing with humans. And so therefore, if you're looking for perfection, you'll never have that. We find that kind of odd because we're the only profession that's held to that standard. The medical profession, are allowed to prescribe medications that do what? Could cause either could worsen your condition or could bring a loss of life, some dreaded disease. That can be up to and including through the FDA a 10% loss rate. Yet we in law enforcement are held to a standard that is much, much higher. So will we get body cameras? Yes, we're doing a measured response. We're working with the state attorney's office. This year in our budget submission for 2016-17, we've asked for $300,000 to start outfitting members of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office with body cameras. We're going to start with probationary employees, and that'll be a part of the probationary process. But again, while hanging a camera on someone, again, is nothing but symbolic. And the reason why I say that is this. As with all things, it's the other end that we're very concerned about. As you're aware, in the state of Florida, we have a very open public records law, which is a good thing. It keeps honest people honest. As I tell folks, as an elected official, if I tell you a story tonight about a particular thing, if I'm not doing my very best to tell you the truth, I'm not real smart, because there'll come a point in time in this process that you can request all the public documents and it will come out whether I was telling you the truth or not. So with the body cameras, many of our news media outlets are saying that they're going to have a standing order for all of our body cameras every day, all of the tape on that. So let's use you as an example. We respond to your house tonight because you have a suspected burglary. Do you want us coming into your house and videotaping everything in your house? And the answer is no. So now we'll have to write, through the Florida statutes and also through our local policies and procedures here, how can we legally edit a video and still have that video submitted as evidence? And the answer is that's a pretty tough nut to crack in the legal community. So now we've got to draw the defense bar and other folks in as to how do we do that with evidence which heretofore would be considered tampered with. You can't submit evidence that's been altered in any way. So again, while this rush to body cameras sounds very good, there's a lot of hoops we've got to jump through to, number one, make it legal, and number two, to really bring something to the table that adds to the professionalization of law enforcement and adds to the assurance in our community that your law enforcement officers are not doing anything wrong. I will tell you, and I will submit to you, that the numbers are there that should be enough of an assurance to my community that your law enforcement is doing an outstanding job, not only in Escambia County, but as a whole throughout the nation. Yet we've got those folks in our communities that want more. They want videotape of that proof. We're engaging, unfortunately, in a legal circular argument that there will be no end to. We need some rational minds and cooler heads to prevail in this process. We'll eventually have body cameras in Escambia County. I'm unopposed to them. Why? Because you're going to find that 99.9% of the time, our officers are doing yeoman's work. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. What I predict you're going to see on the body cam videos, if it doesn't get excluded from the public records laws, is a lot of civilians acting very badly. Jonah asked, why are you so passionate about being sheriff? Jonah always wanted to go into law enforcement from the time I was a very young man. Couldn't become a law enforcement officer. I graduated high school when I was 17. So the way I could get into law enforcement very quickly was to join the military, because there wasn't an age requirement, if you will. If you were old enough to be in the military, you can serve in any capacity. And so I entered the United States Air Force, became a security police officer, did my first tour of duty, enlisted, and then went back to college and got a commission through AFROTC, and finished my career as a commissioned officer, both in security police and for a very short while with a group called the Office of Special Investigation. It's kind of the FBI of the Air Force, if you will. So I'm passionate about being sheriff because I'm always looking for ways for us to upgrade and professionalize law enforcement in our community. And it's such a dynamic field. If you followed law enforcement, especially in the last year or two, we have something called the Ferguson effect, which is, of course, an outgrowth or a fallout, if you will, is probably more an appropriate statement, of the incidents that occurred in Ferguson, Missouri. So how do we react to that, to our community, where we have things being said about law enforcement that were proved to be patently false, but sadly have taken root and caught fire, if you will, throughout our community? The hands up, don't shoot, which never occurred. So as a chief executive of a law enforcement agency, I have to find ways from a strategic level to respond to those problems in our community and in communities across the United States, and do it again appropriately and professionally, and again to where we don't worsen a condition or make a condition worse than it currently is. So I find that to be, very interesting, and I am passionate about that. Why? Because literally, if I'm not on my game and I haven't selected the right people to serve in positions in this organization, that we don't have supervisors that are appropriately trained and supervised, any community can be a flashpoint. And so why am I passionate about being sheriff? It's because one of my biggest jobs today is to ensure that we keep pace with the changing society and culture, and how do we respond to that appropriately in our community with an understanding that we're peacekeepers and we're bringers of the law, and that's what we're charged with doing. And so, I find that to be, immensely interesting. We've got some things coming in the pike here in the next probably decade. Legalization of drugs that I grew up with that were clearly illegal. I think while I don't, necessarily agree with some of these changes, part of my job is to, again, determine how we operate within that environment. The legalization of marijuana is an excellent example. That's probably just on the horizon. So how do I, operate in an environment where I have officers that are prescribed marijuana? I mean, a kind of unique perspective to take, isn't it? As far as, again, as a sheriff, now I have to deal with the fact that I have an officer being prescribed and taking a narcotic that not that many years ago we were arresting people for. So that's one of the unique, natures and items that we have to deal with in law enforcement. And if you're not passionate about, going after those issues and problems, you're probably in the wrong line of work. So great question, and I appreciate you asking that. And, I always tell folks, the day that I wake up that I don't look forward to coming to the office and facing all of these challenges, making a better working environment for the men and women at the Escambia County Sheriff's Office is the day I probably need to go. That day's not here yet. So thank you very much for the question. Remember, you can also email your questions and ask the sheriff at escambiaso.com. We'll be back next week right here on Blab TV Tuesday night at 8 p.m.